federal identification numbers and the state of Hawaii, and I began my spiritual path from Houston to Africa, to the United Kingdom, to Spain, to Portugal. Oh my gosh, and all the way back to Hawaii again. And from Hawaii, the government sent me to Japan and back again. And I worked with the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I never worked with the Coast Guard, but I sort of had a handle on that. And Robert Morningstar works with the Coast Guard, who worked with me at UFO Digest, so he can handle the Coast Guard for us. So Ufology 101 will bring in a lot of my friends and the other that want to help and have classes and help me with Ufology 101, and then go on into UFO Secret Space. Now, a lot of stuff people are posting right now on social media is just that. It's their particular post, and they have to be responsible for that. So I don't know how Facebook is going to handle all that, or the government, Mark Zuckerberg versus the federal government. And I did notice on some documentaries I was watching that they asked for him to help in the future, which just means he was over at that meeting in CERN, Switzerland, or with the Bilderberg group, doesn't it? So that's a whole class in itself, with all those that intermix with the intelligence community. And the intelligence community looking to follow the money as to what's white money with white papers versus black money with black papers, and the shadow or the dark or untraced money maybe through the Switzerland banks, and those people that we're learning that were running for leadership in the world, at least in America, and how they had offshore bank accounts. And I went to those classes in Vegas, learning and reading. Well, people were selling books on how to put your money offshore back in the 90s. I didn't have any money to put offshore. I was working mostly social media, public relations, but I had a government check then. But then I tried to do a corporation and work with people, but all they did was want to take what I made and knock it off and buy me. Or one guy that had just sold a Coca-Cola franchise in Atlanta flew me to where he was to Canada and offered me $5 million for my new company, corporation, which I walked away from. And I realized with the people that were like the Yakuza, or whatever you want to say, from over in China and Japan and Singapore, that they were all interested in what I was creating too. So I had an interesting story. So we got put a place, we'll call it the black box or Pandora's box, because we don't know what all that was about. But I learned from creating a new reality before we had internet, and I was asking for the internet because I knew about it. So does that go under psychic mediumship, or does that go from visionary, or the future, or people that are just called entrepreneurs? We have angel backers, and all that can go in there, plus the prime alien and UFO supporting group that we're going to move forward with for those people that still want to try to make a living on the planet. And that includes videographers and, well, everybody. I just say that includes everybody. So the other will have everything that's not been included in this track, or this little chat, or how we're going to move forward, because it's been over an hour now. Yay! All right, so this was me learning how to use reality, and I can only use what I've been programmed to use in data, and I know there's going to be a lot of haters out there, but we're going to try to rise above that and get into how we're going to move forward with our reality, and we're going to explain a lot. You know, I know, and I have been an investigator and seen what's gone on and feel totally qualified for, we'll say, source and God, good on delivery, and how people they can believe anything they want, and we still have free speech. So I'm just going to say that right now I like being a senior professional journalist, and learning how to use all the tools we have. And then when I tell my history and what I know, it's going to be Ufology 101 based on my reality and how I've moved forward. And maybe we'll finally get good groups and social media working together. And we can separate fake news and news, but we're going to do misinformation, disinformation, and information. And people are going to start learning, who is this Theresa J Morris? And she's one of the old guys, but she lived through it before we had, let's start at 1967, okay, and move forward. Before that, I did have hepatitis, and I did die, and I left the planet in 1974. But before that, I left in the planet in 1959, I believe, because it was after I had hepatitis and saw angels, or ETs, if you will, in this dimension. And then I went to White Sands, New Mexico, where we went to visit my uncle that worked at Los Alamos. This is a true story. And then later on in life, 94, okay, I went to meet Dolores Cannon in Arkansas, but I felt guided by the men in black and the man I was married to. But Dolores Cannon wanted me to meet her daughter. So I was supposed to get very involved because I was coming back from Hawaii over here to the United States of America. So we called it the mainland. And so I should have picked up my story with Dolores Cannon and helped her then. And in a way I did. And I like that part of working with people and learning their stories and taking them. I guess she hypnotized people and helped people go under. And so people can remember stuff that became part of ufology lore. It's not real. It's who each individual person was at the time and how they were dealing with what they didn't understand. So that which we don't understand, we fear. So the haters will like the fact that if you don't know it, you fear it, and it may scare you. And a lot of people live on that, death and dying and fear, mongering. That all has its place, but it's for each individual to decide that. But wars fall under that other category. And do we have the need for fighting wars in space? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on you and where you're going to fit in. But we don't want any more wars. We don't want World War III. And Ufology 101 will cover all the stuff that we want. Make love, not war. But where we're going in space in the future, and how we can learn to deal with death and dying, near-death experiences, out-of-body, synchronicity, serendipity behavior, how we can all get along, and suicide prevention, and integrative medicine, and UFO conferences, and conscious conferences, and New Age conferences, and the future of Ascension Age, and how the Ascension evolved into the consciousness conferences and the UFO conferences as separate things. And then there's people using different groups, associations, especially people banking on the Mutual UFO Network people. And how do they get those lists? Because some people pay dues and some don't, and they use the internet, and you can pay $5 a month if you want to go into the library of Mutual UFO Network, and that's sort of one way you can get started. Now, some people, Bob Brown, I believe, was one of the names back in the day, along with Bob Dean, and there's a history of people that we can drop names and see what they were about in ufology, if it was, because I remember before we even had the word ufology. So look up the word history of ufology, and in my book's been cited as a reference, Knowing Cosmology. Thank you very much for whoever did that in cyberspace. Thank you for putting me on the map, because I had no other way to get in. And I have a lot of books out there, but they were just basically my blog stories, folks, and carrying on a little bit with my husband to keep him busy. But some of it was based on truth. So 1% truth, 5% not truth. And that's sort of the way, because what happens is you're 1% truth, or you're 99% you, but 1% of you is searching for something outside. It's sort of like saying how much of you are water. But what happened is, in my reality, was I have a history to tell in uniform and out of uniform, and how I decipher it or perceive it through my own filters. And my voice has changed. It used to not have an accent. But growing up Southern in Monroe, Louisiana, moving to Houston, and then a little bit in New York, and then Chicago, and then Waukegan, actually, and then to Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, I came over to the mainland and went through some more schooling and education, and then drove a truck cross country to learn about all the corporations and how they work, and in and out of... I carried parts and Microsoft and U.S. Treasury money. So I've been trusted with a lot of great things, millions of dollars in my possession. So I guess I was a good courier on the planet. But really, I don't know what I am, and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So that's got to be part of Ufology 101, because we're still ingesting information. And what are we going to take with us when we pass over? So interdimensional beings, that may or may not be who we are, but it sure seems like it when I compare my near-death experiences with my out-of-body experiences and my past life regressions, and then the future and how I read it, which can change. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that one person that I think has a good handle, he doesn't have the whole truth, even if he thinks he does, but I think he'll be the first to admit that he's had a medical background, but he's had his own life story to tell too. And it's okay that he is making money, and it's okay if everybody makes money in the ufology field and prospers, because if you'll watch your evangelist television, we've been going, and I've had a lot of intimate calls with people steering and influencing politics and religion, and to the highest level. So, that's a whole nother story. And, just stay in tune, stay in touch with me, and let's see what we can create together. All right? And I'm going to go now, because I don't even know if I just wasted my whole entire time, an hour and 12, almost 13 minutes, but we're going to stop at that, because I have to learn how to use this equipment. So for all those that enjoyed what I did, thank you very much. For all those that are haters and think I just wasted my life, energy, and breath, we can get into that, because that's a whole nother existence of learning how to breathe. And that'll be the next ufology class. So love and light. Do what you can to get in touch with your higher self, your oversoul, and the source. Love and light, and I'll get back to you later. Thank you for listening. I'm going off now. According to this, I'll be off. Do you really want to stop broadcasting at this time until you hear me again? This is Theresa J Morris for TJ Morris, doing business as ACR. One part of me that never made a dime on that. And the future of my life that hopes I can figure out how to keep going so I can do this again is American Communications Online out of Gulf Breeze, Florida, learning how to broadcast. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you liked my topic. Good night.